Hey everyone, and welcome to the first event of the Retention Revolution series. We're so excited to have you. And today we're talking about how to turn distracted shoppers into repeat customers. And here with us today, we're going to have a panel discussion with this three amazing people. And I don't know how the video is like in your screen right now, but we have Kyle, who is the VP of Marketing and Partnerships at retention.com. And Kyle, I admit that I've been trying not to have to say your surname because I don't really know how to pronounce it correctly. Can you help me
It
there?
looks a lot more complicated than it is. It's just like standard time. Just
Oh,
call
okay.
standard. Yeah.
Standard. All right,
That's it.
great. And Kyle brings a very extensive knowledge in developing and executing retention strategies. So thank you for joining us today, Kyle.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
We Awesome. We also have David Raab, who is the founder of the Customer Data Platform Institute. And we're very excited to have David here because he has a very deep understanding of how businesses can integrate data to boost customer retention. So thank you for being here today, David.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Nice. And we also have Ashley Hejlik, right?
That's right. You got it.
Also, yeah, she's the co-founder and CMO of at SciKitty.com, and I'm very excited to have her here because as a customer, I have seen how Ashley successfully transformed SciKitty into like a brand that actually, yeah, excels at customer engagement with all her emails and content. So thank you for coming, Ashley.
Thank you for having me.
Great. And okay, so we're going to jump right in and let's talk about how to leverage data for personalization. And I actually have a question for you, Ashley. As the CMO of SciKitty, how have you utilized customer data to create personalized shopping experiences that drive retention?
Sure, that's a great question. First, let me give you a little bit of context. Soy Kitty is an early stage startup. We do have one SKU that can be sold on subscription or on an as needed basis. We started pre-selling in January of this year and officially went live in May. So really small, but growing rapidly. And so as we add more products and more SKUs, our strategy will continue to evolve and grow with it. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context there. So let me get to your question. So one thing that I think about when trying to create our retention strategy for Soy Kitty is what retention means, right? And so we want to build meaningful, long-term, healthy relationships with our customers. And so we do that by prioritizing how we make our customers feel. We want them to feel valued, understood, heard, appreciated, and really like they matter because they do. And we do this through authentic, personalized interactions. And this includes creating value beyond just our amazing product. So we want to find ways to educate and empower, care for their cats while reducing their impact on the planet. So how do we actually do this with data? Well, the first thing you need to understand is email marketing is our #1 retention strategy. So we utilize the information or data that's coming in from their purchasing history, their website behavioral data, or their engagement metrics. And we've been able to use that information to develop over 25 personalized email flows. So these communications are completely tailored to the different stages in their customer journey. So we're delivering timely, super relevant information and content that not only meets their needs, but adds additional value. And so why this strategy works for Soy Kitty is because it allows us to use that data that we're capturing and using to continuously learn about our audience, to anticipate their needs, and to find ways to enhance or better their overall experience, not just with our product, but with us as a brand. So by doing this, we're really putting a humanistic approach to our marketing. We're trying to foster really deep connections and relationships. And that works for us because our audience, who are typically eco-conscious, consumers, typically millennials and Gen Z, they're really seeking to do business with brands and make purchases from brands that are really authentic and purpose driven. And so, just in a nutshell, to wrap that up, we use data to create incredibly personalized communications to add value to their lives and keep them happy and hopefully coming back for more.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So the first thing that you mentioned is like it's understanding the audience very well and understanding what you're looking for, and then the pillars of your brand and how you actually want to communicate with them, then choosing a channel and gathering as much data as you can to segment and personalize that communication through that channel. Right?
For sure. Spot on.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Kyle, I actually have a question for you about that because Ashley was talking about those different moments in the customer journey. I would love to hear from you. What are the key data points that you analyze to understand consumer behavior and preferences?
Yeah, for sure. So there's kind of a couple different ways that we look at it, but the first way is very much in line with what Ashley said about just getting like very in touch with the person that we're talking to, trying to have a real conversation, kind of try to remove the sale from the sales side of things and just make it more about connection. Because at the end of the day, there are a lot of different options and competitors and different products, both on the brand side and the software side. And I think at the end of the day, what's going to rule out is people actually siding with hey, I really like this person, this brand, this interaction that I had. So, I mean, we know a lot about our customers just by talking to them at the events. We're a very events-driven company for our marketing strategy, very like IRL motion, talking to people in person, just hearing what they actually want to try to solve and what their brand's aspirations are. And we transfer that even into our demo calls, listening to their journey. Who are they outside of their founder role and their operator role, and what do they do? If you've been to any of our, and if you've been on a demo with us before, you'll notice it feels more like a session of friends catching up rather than a typical sales call. So I think just getting that one-to-one connection for us is really key. And then because of that, we're able to get a deeper understanding of what the needs actually are. And so, for retention, like our product can be used by brands of all different sizes, and we have over 100 different integrations. So what matters to us is really understanding where the brand or founder or whatever is at in their journey, and figuring out, what is their tech stack currently. It's probably the most important one for us. And then from that way, we can gauge how to use our software appropriately, because it can be used in a number of different ways. Like at the end of the day, our main thing is bringing shoppers back to buy, and we do that by improving email marketing revenue. But knowing exactly what their tech stack is and how we can integrate into that is really important. But then outside of that, just through our own intent-based signals that we have set up, just being able to understand what are some growth signals that we can get triggered to get sent to us to take a look at. Like, are they ready to scale their business? Are they investing in certain types of tech? Are they showing interest by checking out our site, other pages? So we really use a lot of that intent-based signals along with a personal touch to try to combine those two together.
Nice. Okay, so you're paying attention to a lot of different touch points in the customer journey. One thing that I like about what you said is that a lot of times we think of data just as something that comes in a dashboard, but a lot of the data that has been used to build the society that we have today is actually data that we analyze from experiences that we had in real life. So when there isn't any data, there is still data there, right? So you can still go and talk to people. And yeah, I love that. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And David, I have a question for you. Could you tell us a little bit about how the CDP, Customer Data Platform, help retailers integrate and utilize data more effectively for personalization?
Happy to. So the CDP is a system that collects data from all the various places that data originates, from your website, from your CRM system, from your purchasing system, from your customer support, from your social feeds, all the different places that data comes from, and the problem is it sits there in those silos unless you pull it together into something and then analyze it to create a unified profile. So the key role of the CDP is exactly to build those profiles. Once those profiles are built, then you can do your analysis on top of that, and then you can begin to figure out what their intent is. As Kyle was just talking about, you can figure out which of their 25 flows, which is amazing to have 25 flows, incidentally, Ashley, that Ashley has tailored to each customer's particular situation. Then you go out and you contact them in the right channel and at the right time and all the various right things that we do. So the CDP solves that key problem that a lot of retailers have of their data being fragmented, pulls it together into one place, and then it lets you do all the wonderful things that you always kind of wanted to do, but really couldn't when that data was sitting out there in those silos.
Great. And yes, so what would that, how would that be, considering Ashley's situation, like what she brought about, like her context and how she uses email marketing as her main channel, but she probably has other communication channels as well, social channels and stuff like that. How would a platform like that help impact positively her retention efforts?
Okay, so she's using email. She's probably doing SMS chat, I'm going to guess. She's probably doing social interactions, I'm going to guess. She certainly has a website. People are coming to that website. Again, those are all different data sources. So what the CDP would do, it would let you get a clear picture of what any given customer is doing across all those data sources. And maybe she's doing that now. Actually, you could tell us something, unless it's a secret. If you're pulling that data together now, or you're just looking at email responses, which is another way to do it. And the rest of that is kind of floating around out there, but you don't really have a clear picture of it, or at least an easily accessible picture. So I don't know, Ashley, how are you doing it?
So like I mentioned, we're keeping things pretty simple. We have a pretty small team, so we're keeping things really simple. Luckily, we use Klaviyo as our email platform, and we utilize their SMS capabilities and product review capabilities as well. But yeah, we're not bringing in any engagement metrics from social right now.
Okay, and Klaviyo actually has good CDP capabilities that we classify them as a CDP as it happens. So they could probably do a fair amount of that for you if you wanted to make the connections. And as Kyle was talking about, having those connectors in place and being able to integrate easily with the source systems is really a key, because building custom connectors can be difficult to impossible and sort of costly to very costly. It's kind of the spectrum you're on there. So you really want to have systems that have standard pre-built connectors to make that data collection a lot easier. And again, that's one of the things that, you know, the more established CDP vendors will have literally hundreds of those.
Awesome. And then that brings me to the next question, which is the technologies and tools that you're using, Ashley, for SoyKitty to improve customer retention through personalization.
Yeah, so I already mentioned one of them. So it's Klaviyo. Like I mentioned, we use it for email, SMS, and then product reviews. But really, any mid to high level email marketing platform would work. Mailmodo would be an awesome alternative to Klaviyo. But what we love about Klaviyo is the ability to set up these automated workflows that I was talking about. That can be triggered by specific interactions that the customer is having, such as cart abandonment, post-purchase, subscription renewals, things like that. The other thing that's great about Klaviyo is the robust segmentation capabilities that it has. So we can create these very niche segments. So the communications that we send them is very targeted, very relevant. So both from a campaign standpoint and an automated workflow standpoint, we're kind of covered with creating these really relevant communications. And then the second tool that I want to mention that has been pretty pivotal for us is Skio. And we use that as our subscription management platform. And what I love about Skio is it puts the control back into the hands of our customers. It's super simple for them to be able to manage their subscription pretty effortlessly. They can modify their delivery schedules. They can add or remove products, skip deliveries, pause deliveries, update their payment information, update their delivery location, and they can do that all within the portal. They don't need to contact us or customer support or get on the phone to be able to do this. So giving the power back to the customer is really pivotal for us to create an amazing experience. Plus, all that data is being collected and housed in Skio. So we're getting a better understanding about how our customers are using our products so we can make better decisions that way. So those are our two key technologies.
And I used that. I had to pause my later subscription, and it did work very well. It was very easy to organize, and yeah, so pretty cool. And Kai, I have a question for you. How can predictive analytics be used to identify and mitigate churn risks before they occur?
For sure. So first off, I just want to say, Ashley, great shout out to the Skio team. They're a great group of guys over there. It's software that we definitely recommend. But yeah, so back to the question here. So for us, like any other SaaS platform in the industry, we have risk indicators internally that take into account how active somebody is on their ESP, for example. So like, how, if they're using Klaviyo, and we had that integration, how often are they actually sending out emails? How often are they logging into their account? There's triggers that can be set up. Is their billing account information active? When was the last communication that our team had with them? Are they engaging with our product content, opening emails, marketing emails? So we kind of look at it the full funnel for us trying to mitigate risk, and then we also have flags set up for that take all of these into account. And again, in our CRM, we'll get a notification sent out if a combination of these reach a certain level to say that there's a churn risk, and try to use as much of that predictive analytics as possible. And if they're considering retention, like in their segmentation. So that's from a company standpoint, but from a brand side, when we kind of look at and again, I can't speak too much to the tech side. Obviously, Ashley would be better suited for that coming from the brand, but I do see some really great stuff from a brand side from some of the customers that we work with. And so brands, there's a lot of competition out there, and unless you go over and above and beyond, like Ashley was mentioning in some of her strategies, in providing a great experience to your customers at all stages, they're going to bounce, or they're going to churn, or they're not going to come back for that subscription. And one like really good one that we've seen recently is, for example, Beyond Yoga is one of the customers that we work with. We recently onboarded them, and if you take a look at their site, they check all the boxes and more when it comes to retention and trying to keep that person in their purchasing funnel, both pre and post purchase. And so, you get a little discount if you're a first-time shopper with us on your site. They are now able to get segment and send content tailored to the products that you're interested in before and even after the purchase. Then they invite you to different challenges that you can accomplish to hit your movement goals. Just an overall like really good experience from a brand side of things that makes people feel more involved and want to come back and almost feel like, okay, I know I made a purchase, but like, what more is there? And almost like, is there more? Do I get deeper into this community the more I buy and the longer I'm part of it? So we just really love to see stuff like that.
That also makes me think that as like services kind of evolved into SaaS platforms, I kind of feel like brands kind of evolve into not just offering products, but also offering like the full learning experience, community experience. So there's so much more that is related to purchasing something nowadays. And yeah, people are actually looking for that kind of experience that is, my more in depth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, awesome. And David, so we're talking about brands and retailers, and what should those brands and retailers be looking for when selecting a CDP or other technological solutions to ensure that they are maximizing their personalization efforts?
Well, I'm a reform consultant, so the answer that consultants always give is it depends, and what it depends on is use cases. So you always have to understand what you want to do with the particular piece of software or system that you're going to buy, and then you derive your requirements from your use cases. What do I need to accomplish? What it is I want to achieve, and then you look for software that does that. So that's the broad general answer that will never get you in trouble as a consultant. CDPs in particular, there's specific things you want to look for that are more or less independent of your use cases. You certainly want to look for connectors to bring data in, and hopefully the connectors to the systems you're actually using or the systems you expect to use. But of course, those are going to change over time, so you want a broad spectrum of connectors as well. Beyond that, you're probably going to need some data cleaning capabilities, because the data that comes in from those source systems is not going to be perfect. And you want, at a minimum, to be able to understand the status of that data so you can see where the issues are, and maybe have some processes available to correct some of that. And but if not, at least to push it back out and say, hey, these are the fields that are not populated properly, or they're not populated at all, or they have clearly erroneous data or whatever. Because data was collected for one purpose, now you're using it for something else. And the people who collected that data probably were collecting the data that they needed to get their jobs done, but not necessarily for the marketers to get their jobs done. So now you have it in the system. Now you're going to look for some identity resolution capabilities. Say, oh, this email address and this SMS phone number and this website identifier, this customer ID, if they're a customer, all belong to the same person, and then a way to build out an identity graph so you can pull together all the information and build the profiles that you want to be able to build. So you need to look at that profile building capability. Now the data's in there, you have the profiles built. Now you want to look at, well, how am I going to use it? So again, connectors. Am I going to put it in Tableau? Am I going to put it in ClickView? Am I going to put it in something else entirely different? What do I want to do with it in terms of analytics? What do I want to do with it? Can I connect it to my email system? Can I connect it to my SMS system if that's a different system? Can I connect it to my website personalization platform if that's a different system? And those do tend to be different systems. So how easily can the CDP connect to that data? And then maybe, in some cases, you actually want an orchestration capability within the CDP that says, well, I can connect with this person through this channel or that channel, through the other email or SMS, or I can send them a personalized website message or a push message or whatever. So what's the right way to do that? What's the right message to send at that time? Where do I want to build my flows? Because if I build my flows in my email system, that's great. Those are email flows. But now if they come in on SMS or in on social or in on the website, how do I integrate those flows so they're getting the same message in the right channel at the right time? So those are kind of the key things that you want to look at in the CDP. Of course, there are literally hundreds, and we have all kinds of fun tools on the cdpinstitute.com website that help people go through that in more depth. But that's a high level for you.
Great. Yeah, it doesn't seem as simple as you would like it to be, right?
It never is. That's why consultants are in business.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for helping us understand the full picture here. Thank you. And okay, let's. I actually have a question for all of you now, and it is: what are some of the actionable strategies that marketers can implement immediately to enhance their customer retention rates? Anything that you've tried and it worked out, or anything that didn't work out so that people could, avoid something like that?
I'll start it off here with just one quick one, and it kind of piggybacks off the conversation we had last week, Mariana, where I think just around SMS and really like integrating SMS into their marketing strategies, and whatever ESP you're using, if you're using Attentive and you want to link that up with your Klaviyo, and just getting that SMS trigger, like if you have the permission from someone to send them a text, don't be afraid to like start that and to get into that. Like they'll tell you whether they want to keep receiving the text messages or not. And I think, again, as our previous conversation, for me, whenever I get these texts from brands, if I really don't want to see it and it's not relative, then I say stop. I'm not going to stop buying from them just because they sent me a text. But if it's timely and it's relevant to me, I actually like it, because I'm like, okay, I like this brand. I know I want to buy from them again. And they're letting me know when they have an upcoming sale. So I don't need to go check my email all the time to see it, but I like them. So I think sometimes people think that they might lose some customers, or they might be a little reserved to implement an SMS strategy, or even though they have the opt-in, they're like, I don't want to toy with that. Test it out on a small batch, just like in marketing, just always A/B test. And I think you're going to see some really positive results.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off of that. SMS is an amazing channel. It works flawlessly with email, but it needs to be used appropriately. It's a very intimate channel, so make sure you're only using it for like really exclusive offers or really important notifications. Do not abuse the SMS channel. So if you use it appropriately for really important things, it can make you as a brand or a company a lot of money, and it can make a really good experience for the purchaser. And then kind of piggybacking off of that, my advice for a strategy they can implement right now, or something they could implement right now, is if you don't have your foundational email and SMS flow set up, so a welcome series, a post-purchase series, abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, a win-back campaign. If you don't have these email and SMS flows set up, do it. You are losing money. So that would be my quick win for brands and companies. Set those up.
And piggybacking on that, I think that one of the things that people can do is look at events, specific events that are a red flag. They say, oh, wait a minute, this person, they were on the website for 15 minutes and they didn't seem to get the answer that they were looking for. They kept trying to do different searches, for example. Somebody's having a problem, or they spent a lot of time in the subscription system, and again, they ended up not making a change. Well, they probably were trying to make a change to something and they couldn't figure out how to do it. So look for those kinds of behaviors and then reach out to them, whether it's by SMS, which is clearly indicated at some points, or by email, and say, hey, what's going on? Can we help you? You don't let them think you're spying on them, right? You don't say, hey, we saw you on the website and you were trying to do this, and, don't feel you're an idiot, because of course that's exactly what they're going to interpret that as. But just, what's up? Can we help you? Is there something we can do for you? And just it's getting out. Reaching out at the right moment is more important, really, than saying specifically why you're reaching out, because they give them the opening to respond to you. Say, hey, funny thing you sent me an email. I just was trying to do this, and maybe you could help me out. So, but look for those events, the actual events, and also the dog that didn't bark events. They haven't done anything in 6 months. We haven't heard from them, and their renewal is coming up. Is there something going on that again might be worth asking them about in a very subtle and non-creepy way, to see if there's something going on that you can maybe nip that problem in the bud.
And David, just on your point there, I was going to stay away from the shameless promo, but I mean, both you and Ashley just teed me up too much where I can't at least talk about our Reclaim product a little bit, because for us, like, that's exactly why we're in this business. Our one product, Reclaim, our whole point is trying to get more revenue and get you more intent out of your current subscriber list. So because of the 7-day Google tracking window, returning customers come back to your site after 7 days. If they're not logged in, on average, you can only identify about 15% of those, give or take up and down. But like, that's where a tool like ours, Reclaim, comes in, and we can help boost that by another 30% by just extending the life of the cookie and allowing you to identify more of your returning customers. And we just simply push them into your ESP. So like Klaviyo, whatever one that you're using. And actually, like you mentioned, if you have all of those flows correctly set up that are already your revenue generating revenue, and your cart abandonment flow is your highest revenue generating flow that there is, all we simply do is just help you get more of those in there from those customers that you've already paid money to get back to your site. And so, like David said, you want to look for those triggers and see like who's visiting, who's on the site. And we just give you an opportunity to see more of those. So I'd like to throw our name in the hat for something you can implement immediately.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Kyle. And Ashley, I'm actually curious about about what you've been up to when it comes to campaigns. So is there anything that you've tried that you consider to have been successful when it comes to marketing campaigns? And could you tell us that story?
Yeah. So specifically regarding retention, right? Yeah. So like I said, we're about 3 months old. So we haven't been doing a lot of one-off campaigns to boost retention, but we've definitely implemented strategies that have retention in mind. And I think the most impactful one for us is the post-purchase educational or onboarding flow. And this is going beyond like just the transactional, like, hey, here's what you purchased, here's your tracking information, this is when it should arrive. We have all of that too, but this onboarding flow that we've created is pretty extensive. It's 15 emails long that spread over the first 60 days after a customer has made their first purchase. And the first half of the emails is about making them feel comfortable about their purchase, reassuring them that they made the right choice. It's also about setting really clear expectations about what they can expect from our product and how to use our product efficiently. We also address common concerns and answer frequently asked questions right up front. So we're mitigating any potential customer service inquiries or a lot more customer service inquiries. And we're also educating our customers about our product. So providing them tips to maximize their experience with it. Our product is a little bit newer compared to other cat litters on the market. So there is a little bit of an educational component that needs to happen and a learning curve. And so we kind of tee them up right at the beginning to be successful. The later part of the email series is more value-added content around the whole litter box experience. So it'll be tips, how-to guides, best practices about the whole litter box experience. Finding ways that we can help them make that not so fun sometimes experience with our product, right? Cleaning the litter box isn't that fun of a thing to do. But making that experience more enjoyable and then making it safer and healthier for their cat, because that's inevitably why they purchased our product, right? And so why this has helped us with retention, we're kind of teeing them up to be successful. We're giving them all the information that they need to feel empowered, to know how to best use our product and get the most from it. We're also creating a really good first impression, I think. We're going above and beyond to make sure that they're getting value from us beyond just our product. We want to help them better care for their cat. So we're giving them value beyond just our product itself. And then the other thing is we're addressing any concerns and questions right up front, and also giving them opportunities to reach out to us, multiple opportunities to reach out to us without having to look around for like, where's the email address? How do I contact them? We want our customers to reach out to us. We want to help them. So I think it's setting a really good foundation and a really good first impression, both with the brand, but then also with our product. They'll know exactly how to use it and feel confident with it. So that's been a pretty good retention strategy that we've used to keep our churn rate under 10%. So it's working.
And I was just thinking now, because you're mentioning all of that, and I was like, yeah, this is all incredible. And one of the impact, like one of the results from that is probably people talking about the product a lot more, because they not only feel confident about the decision that they made, but they feel confident to also refer friends to try the product as well, and be like, hey, this has been working for me. I feel so smart for making this decision, and maybe you should try it too. So I do feel like it works a lot for referral as well.
It definitely does. And that is part of the further along in the post-purchase journey. Yeah. If they're happy with the product and they have other cat owners that are looking for healthier alternatives, yeah, we do ask for them to share it with the other cat moms and dads of the world.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Kyle, and how do you balance personalization with privacy concerns? So that's something that a lot of us have to be very careful about. And what is your advice for brands on that topic specifically?
Yeah, so for sure. For me, whether it's, a larger brand, a smaller brand, whether you're using a tech stack like, Shopify and Klaviyo, or you're a bigger brand and you're using like a custom site and Bloomreach, or you're on a CDP, I think at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is segmentation. And, any of our customers that come on board and brands that we talk to, we tell them the same thing, just keep following the same best practices that you have and the best practices of email marketing. Just because you have a lot of emails or you have a large subscriber list doesn't mean you should be sending large blast emails. Just make sure to always be segmenting. And if you can get hyper personalized, and look at the signals, the intent signals that you have, you can keep your spam rate low. Whereas, the other way around, if you're just blasting that out and you're not using those intent signals to your favor, that's when you're going to get a high spam rate. You're going to start to get people bouncing, more churn. It has just a long lasting negative effect. So segmentation is definitely key. And, when you're segmenting based on the signals you get, like browse, product view, abandoned signals, and send them out relative offers to bring users back to buy, is the way to go. So we now actually, our product as well has active on-site signals. So if a user is active on your site, you can target them with a hyper-personalized email, give them like an unbeatable offer, and then you'll have another sales engine working for you. So again, to me, it's use the sales intent data that you have or the intent signals, create a flow around it. And the brands that are doing it great, like Ashley and Soy Kitty, that have like 25 different flows that you can end up in, is a good goal to try to achieve.
Cool. And when it comes to like privacy concerns, so there aren't as many concerns around that when it comes to like intent within the website. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So for privacy concerns, I mean, for us, like our Reclaim product, all we're doing is identifying subscribers who are already on your subscriber list. So these are people who have already purchased from you, or they've opted into your newsletter, or however you've gotten their information. And so they're already your customers. You already email them. And we just follow the same best practices that you already have in place with your current flows that are set up. So that's something that we take very seriously. And when we're going through that demo process, as I kind of mentioned earlier, where we really get to know the brand, again, to Ashley's point, where if a brand doesn't really have those flows set up, and maybe they only have a welcome series, but they don't have anything else, to us, we would actually tell them, hey, come back to us when you have these flows built out and your email program is in a little bit more of a mature place. And we'd love to work with you. We just always want to make sure that anyone that uses our tools are set up for success, but their business, and especially the email marketing program, needs to be set up for success first, because we can only work as well and follow the guidelines that they already have in place.
Gotcha. And David, do you have any recommendations when it comes to data privacy?
Sure, data privacy, it's a huge issue. And, part of it is just don't be creepy, right? But what does that mean? So there's tons of research that people say, I don't want personalized marketing. I love to get personalized recommendations. I love to get personalized service, but if you call it marketing, then I don't want to see it. So you have to be sensitive to what customers really want. They really want a personalized experience. And Ashley's doing a great job with that clearly already. Right. So when you communicate with them, even if you're using information that you've collected, you have to be pretty subtle about, well, I'm telling you something that's useful to you. I'm not telling you something because I want to sell you something, even though you do want to sell them something. I'm telling you this because we think you'd really like to know that, these cabinets are on sale, because we know you've been looking at cabinets, and we know we've been looking at cabinets. But we're not going to say, hey, remember those cabinets you were looking at? Now they're on sale. And maybe you say that, but you don't say, oh, we know that you're interested in cabinets, because maybe I bought some cabinets already and I don't really want to hear about it anymore. But you still want to make your communications relevant to them. Relevance is the key thing. So there's that whole stream of things to do to make sure that you are communicating with them in ways that they find useful and not invasive. And the other stream about privacy is trust. People really are worried that they don't know what you are doing with their data. So you have to be very clear about what you're doing with their data. And, we do this. This is how we protect your data. We have, 18 different locks on our data center, and we do all these fancy things that maybe everybody else in the world does, but Joe consumer doesn't know that, right? So, well, that's really great that you guys have all these great security things. Oh, your data is encrypted at rest. I don't know what it means, but that sounds like a really good thing for you to be doing. Sure, everybody encrypts their data at rest. They don't know that. So you really want to build that trust and explain to them what you're doing, explain to them how you're using it, and of course, don't use it in bad ways. Most people really don't want their data shared with third parties. So unless you're in that business and you have very explicit and clear consent, don't share the data with third parties. I could give it up a little bit of money on that if that's a revenue stream for you, but the rules now about telling people what you're doing with their data are much more rigorous than there used to be. So you're really going to have to tell them they're doing it. And they may not want to do business with you if you tell them that you are going to share their data with somebody else. So really think very carefully before you do that. And of course, be honest about it. And if you're going to do it, then tell them you're doing it so you don't get into trouble later on. So there's a few thoughts.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. And okay, so we're coming to the end of this discussion, and now we're going to talk a little bit the future. And I would love to hear your thoughts, David, on the emerging trends in data and personalization. And what do you foresee for the next 5 years?
5 years. No one knows.
I know, right?
Maybe I can do 2 years if you're lucky, and that'll be about
Okay, 3.
Right.
Let's do 3.
Okay, let's do 3. We'll compromise. Well, again, privacy actually huge and getting huger, or more huge, depending on what language you speak. So being more careful about that, being more respectful, asking for more explicit consent, being more rigorous in the way you actually follow the rules, because now there's still a fair amount of slack, but the regulators are getting more cranky by the minute, as we see, particularly in Europe, but even in the US at the state level, of course, the federal level, different story. So pay more attention to privacy, I think, is one thing. Certainly first-party data that you collect yourself is going to become more important as third-party cookies get deprecated, which they will eventually. Google will sooner or later do that. Remember, Apple's already done that. Firefox has already done that. All the other browsers have already done that. So the amount of data that you can get from outside of your own resources, the third-party data is already vastly constricted compared to what it was 5 years ago, and will, over the next 3 years, will become even more constricted. So prepare for that. Do a good job getting your own data. The stuff that Kyle was talking about, retention, again, making sure that you get as much data as you can out of people. It's going to happen specifically in CDP land. There's some trends about vertical systems and things like that, which probably aren't too important to your audience here. And the elephant in the room is AI, right? What's AI going to do? AI is going to make it easier to generate content. It's going to make it easier to understand intent. It's going to make it easier to analyze and find patterns and find opportunities, these little pockets of opportunity that the AI can find that are too subtle for mere human analysts to find. On the technical side, it'll make it easier to ingest new data sources, it'll make it easier to analyze unstructured data, which is already the majority of data actually is unstructured, but most of it's kind of opaque. You can't analyze it because there's just no way to make sense of it. The AIs can actually find sense in that unstructured data, so you can pull out opportunities and things from that. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Okay, so AI is coming up for the first time in this chat, 44 minutes in. Wow, we're being very good today. So Kyle, let's keep on talking about AI. How can brands leverage AI-driven hyper-personalization to drive customer loyalty and retention?
Yeah, I don't have any specifics of hey, use this tool or that tool, because I could give a plug for 1,000 different tools that are out there, but I think kind of going off of David's points, where when I think about what is it going to be 5 years from now or 3 years from now, whatever we're comfortable to think of, when implementing AI, to me it's because of AI, what the journey is going to look like 3 years from now, if we were to see that today, we'd be like, that is way too creepy. Like, there's no way that's going to work. Like, like what David was saying, if we know, like, we know when the returning customer is on the site, we know when they look at a certain page, and we could reach out and say like, hey, do you need help buying this? But right now that's too creepy. That's like, a number of years ago when all of a sudden we started getting targeted ads on Instagram, and we're like, okay, Google is definitely listening to me, or whatever, like at home, like Alexa or whatever at home device that you have. And for a while there, we're like, they're listening to us. This is creepy. This is bad. But now you have this like really nice personalized experience, and you're like, okay, honestly, I did need to like buy these dishwasher pods, and so like I'm glad I got to like hit with this ad of these like new like eco-friendly dishwasher pods that I didn't know about, and now I can just buy these. And we're just much more comfortable with something that was uncomfortable a few years before that. So I think all AI is going to do is just advance that at like just such a fast rate, where you're going to go and interact with a brand, and it's going to be so hyper personalized that like we can't even think of right now we can't even think of what it would look like 3 years from now, because those tools aren't even invented yet. But the way that we're going to be interacting with the brands are just going to be so custom and tailored to like who we are as a person, and again, as much data as that brand has on us. So if they purchase from us or we purchased from them before, whatever first party data that brand has on their, on that returning customer or on that subscriber is going to be used to the full extent to customize that buyer's journey. And if you have 1,000 customers in a day, there's probably going to be 1,000 different customer journeys built out by AI from your core website of content to get them to purchase. So I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's going to be a lot different than it is now.
I kind of like that vision, because I feel like as a consumer, I would love not to have to research as much for like when I'm looking to buy something, and then things just like flowing into me, like things that I actually like and care about. So I hope for that. And Ashley, what about you? Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as what Kyle and David said. It's going to be amazing. Hopefully not creepy. My word of caution to brands would be to not lose your humanity. Like, we are people doing business with other people. Yes, we want, to grow our companies and get the most out of our customers, right? But it's more than that. It's bigger than that. Like, remember, you're working with people. You're helping them solve problems. So please remember your humanity and authenticity when using AI.
That's one thing that I feel like I don't see us talking about as much. We talk a lot about tools and how we can be more efficient and all of that. And I do feel like we risk becoming brands that are just too much alike, because we might just lose our kind of like personalities as brands, since our personalities are usually built on by the teams. They're actually making those small decisions every day on how we're going to communicate and how we're going to do this and that. So I totally agree with that. And I feel like that's when the whole concept and understanding and documentation actually of a brand strategy, like start thinking about it and considering that, and then kind of like training whatever AI you're using so that it kind of uses your voice and tone and understands your audience very well. I feel like that it's going to be even more important than it already is.
Especially, we're already seeing this with the millennial generation, and we're already seeing it with Gen Z. So as Gen Z starts to be the ones that have more of the purchasing power, they are looking to work with brands that have meaning, that have impact, that they feel comfortable like working with, right? It's more of a relationship, right? But if you're like a sleazy type of brand, you're not going to win their buying power, right? So just be cautious with how you use AI.
Great, thank you. And I must say that I also feel like we talk a lot about Gen Z and millennials being like expecting a lot from brands, but I do feel like Gen X's and Boomers are they also have their favorite brands and they're very loyal. So there's also something there. I think everyone is kind of trying to relate to the things that they're consuming. And just it's just sometimes the values are a little bit different, or what you're looking for is a little different. One thing that I wanted to ask all of you is about we've spoken about like the first party data and data that you get from people engaging with you. But what about like zero party data, the data that comes from when you ask them something and then they actually share that information with you? Do you see that as something? And I think this is especially a question I have for you, Ashley. If you use that in your strategy at all, like a moment where you ask them what they want to see or whatever, like send them like a form or something like that. How is that like for you?
Yeah, we use that all the time. One way we do this is we have it's a fun little quiz. How sustainable of a cat owner are you? And so it's meant to be fun and just kind of make people see like how curious they are, like how sustainable am I, right? But what we're doing is, yeah, we're creating a fun experience, but we're also collecting data about how they think, how they interact with the environment, and what's important to them when making purchasing decisions. We're also collecting information about what products they used previously and what's important to them when making a cat litter purchase. So we use that as part of our lead nurturing strategy. And then another way we collect preferences or opinions from our customers is every time we send out some sort of newsletter or educational piece of content, a lot of times we'll have a dynamic content block that asks them, like, just kind of rating their thoughts on this piece of content. Like, how did you like it? What did you think about it? And so it's literally a one-click survey. There's a happy face, a neutral face, and a sad face. And that may seem silly, but what we're doing is we're trying to create more content that resonates with them. So if we're getting their opinion, like, oh yeah, we're seeing a trend, they want more content like that, we're gonna create more content like that. They like it, it's valuable. So those are two different ways we're using zero-party data in our strategy.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. And now I'm going to plug Miyamoto here because we can also send quizzes and surveys through emails, and it's just a drag and drop kind of feature. So I feel like that is one of the things that a lot of times is just hard to set up, especially for smaller brands that don't really have, like a development team that can create like, HTML emails that work perfectly with like AMP and interactive technologies. But if you have that kind of drag and drop thing, I feel like you can build on your segmentations even better and become even more relevant, just like Ashley said. So yeah. And now I actually have a question for all of you, just for us to wrap up. And it is a very tactical question so that everyone can leave this conversation with something to implement right now. So I would love for each of you to share one tactic that our audience could implement to turn those distracted shoppers into repeat customers.
I'll start here. And as I've already got technical with my SMS suggestion, and I also already did my shameless plug, I've used those two lifelines up. So the third one I'm going to go with is it's still tactical, but it's a little more fun. And for me, it kind of pulls together what we're talking about creating a very kind of like wholesome brand, creating a connection with the customers. And I think for me, it's just creating better content and creating unique content and pairing up with, some influencers or creators that you might not have thought would have been someone that was like in your wheelhouse before. But like Ashley said, like if there's ways that you can use intent data of what kind of content they would want or like, maybe go all in on it. For example, like Yeti, on Instagram. They had a campaign called Built for the Wild, where they partnered with all different levels of creators, from athletes like, skateboarder Louis Lopez to fly fishing enthusiasts. Just kind of, and like, I just love to think, sitting at that marketing table, of like, who are we going to do this campaign with, and just who you could like align your brand with, and just trying to think outside of the box. And I mean, like, even most recently at our Retox retreat that we did, our largest event of the year in Malibu a few weeks ago, former NBA player Baron Davis was like one of the panelists, and he was just talking about how his community is all about connecting athletes and former athletes with brand influence or brands to become partners and investors and sponsors, and from any level of athlete or creator, just trying to get more connected with the brands and creating some really cool, unique content that's a little outside of the box. So I think, in short, is just give some cool content to try with some things you didn't think of before.
Awesome. I love that. My little piece of advice to turn distracted shoppers into repeat customers, I'm going to reuse what I just talked about, is if you don't have an educational post-purchase series or an onboarding flow, do it. Like, create one. They have already purchased from you. They're hot. They're the most engaged, and they're the most receptive to receiving your email and SMS communications. They're actually expecting it. So go beyond the transactional stuff. Look for ways to reduce their buyer's remorse, make them feel good about the purchase that they made. You can use a simple comparison email. Look for ways to answer their questions preemptively, and find ways to add value however you can. Educate them on how to best use your product and how to make the most of it, get the most benefit of it. If they know how to use your product well, they'll keep using it. It's an easy way to get them coming back for more. So definitely implement an educational post-purchase series if you don't already have one.
And make it actually educational, right? Like, just don't just like send emails that they're not really relevant.
Add value, help them solve the problem that they're buying your product for, right? They're purchasing something to solve a problem. Help them. It's that simple.
Thank you, Ashley. How about you, David?
Well, I would second everything that Ashley said there, but if you have to, that's something different. I would say whatever you're doing in social, do more of it. I don't think it's even possible to do enough social these days. So find content, and if it's educational content, so much the better. If it's entertaining, and it's really entertaining, not just like cringe entertaining, do that. But there's so much opportunity out there in that particular space, and it's a pain in the neck to create content for it, but it doesn't have to be long form. It doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be just a matter of frequency, really. So do what you can do to sort of get that social profile a little bit higher, and I think that will help.
I love it. And one thing that I love about social is that sometimes we forget that it's social, right? It's social. It's supposed to be a two-way means of communication. It's not just it's not a flyer that you're just like handing over to people. So I think we can take more advantage of that, like as businesses, as brands, and as people, really. So thank you for plugging that, David. All right. And so we wrap up this first event of the Retention Revolution series. Thank you so much for everyone who joined us. Thank you so much, Ashley, Kyle, David, for sharing so much of your experience here with us today. We're so excited about the next events coming up. There is another one next Wednesday at the same time. And that is going to be, let me just get the right name of the event. That is going to be about loyalty. So one thing to think about it's really hard to talk about retention and not plug in loyalty. So we did speak a little bit about it today as well. But basically, we are going to think about how we can create brand stickiness the right way. So how we can truly connect with people, considering our values, their values, and make them remember our brands. So yeah, so here's an invitation for everyone who wants to join us, and see you next time.